Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of the MR2 dash. If you didn't see part 1, I will leave a link in the description. Also leave a link at the top of the screen. You can go and check that one out. It might be better if you check that one out first. It'll make more sense of what's going on in this video if you do. But if you don't, then that's up to you. So in part 1, if you remember, if you did watch it, I stripped off the old cover from this that a trimmer had put on and done a really bad job. So that was removed, and then I removed the original cover that was underneath that, which should have been removed in the first place, but I'm glad he didn't remove that. I've 2 colour patterns, so now I'm ready to start cutting out the leather. I don't need this for a while now, so I'll put this to one side, I'll get leather out, and I'll start to offer the patterns up to the leather and start doing the cutting. So this is the leather. It's just a standard black automotive leather, nothing fancy, but it's very similar to what was on the dash. So I'm just going to give it a quick visual check over. Yep, we'll be fine now. So I'm just going to use this part of the leather here. This is the butt part of the leather, and that's where the better quality leather comes from. It comes from the butt down the spine. As you get close to the belly, the leather becomes a little bit less of a decent quality and has more stretch marks on because it's from a cow. Obviously cows have babies, they get bigger and they start to stretch, so all the stretch marks will be around the belly area. So we'll try and avoid them as much as possible, especially on a job like this where everything is visible. We're absolutely fine with this part of the hide here. So I'll flip it over. So I'm going to pin the leather to the bench, give the leather a little bit of a pre-stretch. If you just put leather on a bench and just cut around a pattern, then you haven't allowed for any stretch because there's quite a lot of stretch in leather. So if you actually, when you pin it to the bench, if you stretch it out a little bit, then that allows for any stretch in the leather. The stretch is inconsistent, it's not an even stretch across the whole hide, depends on which part of the hide you're working on, how much stretch that particular part has. More stretch around the belly area, less stretch around the spine, and the spine is of better quality anyway. So I'll give it a little stretch as I pin it out, get to lie flat, and then I'll offer the pattern pieces up. So there's only one major pattern piece for the face of the dash, 2 ends which are very small, and then 2 internal parts for these 2 internal parts here, and that's it. So this is the main face part pattern. It's half a pattern, so I'm going to draw around this half here, flip it over, and then draw around the other half, and that'll give me the full piece. And I'm going to use tape to tape it down to the leather. I can't pin it, otherwise there'll be holes in the leather. So when I come to draw around this pattern, I'm not going to put any match marks in yet, mainly because I've got to skive all these seams here. When I skive the seams, the match marks will disappear. I'll cut it out, skive it. Once I've skived it, I'll offer it back up to the pattern again, and then I'll put in the match marks. I need to add extra to this top edge here, and extra to this edge, and this bottom edge, I think. But I will add extra, I can always cut it off later. Everything else is just a standard seam allowance. going to do it slightly smaller than the standard seam allowance because it's leather. I would normally cut, if it was fabric, nothing stretchy, I would cut my pattern out with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance or 9mm, whichever you're working. But because this is leather, I will cut it out just under 3/8 of an inch, probably taking a 1/16 of an inch off that. But not everywhere, just because there isn't a lot of fabric in certain, or a lot of extra in certain places. So the bigger the area you're cutting out, the more stretch there is overall in that. The smaller the area, so like here, this is quite a small skinny area, so I won't take off quite as much, and I need extra because I'll show you, because these here I need leather to be able to bring into here. I don't want it to be too tight and not have enough leather to bring it in here. We're not too bad at the top here, there's not much to bring in because we're very close to the edge here, but I need to be able to bring a lot of leather down into here without forming any issues. And between this part here where the seam would be and here is not a lot, so I don't want it to be really tight here. I want it to be, I want it baggy, but I want there to be enough leather here for me to bring it in without pulling on this seam and distorting it. Because you remember from part one, all these seams along with here and the internal seams here were absolutely everywhere. Nothing was where it should have been, and I don't want that to happen. So I need to kind of work out where I'm going to give it a full seam allowance and where I'm not. I think, do you know what, I think I'll give it a full seam allowance everywhere. I have stretched the leather, so that allows for the stretch in the leather I'm cutting out. So I think we'll be alright. I might just do a slightly small, yeah, I'll do a slightly smaller seam allowance and see how it goes. Now, I know that I don't need much pulling along this here because this has a speaker in, and I think the speaker covers most of this. It probably sits less than half an inch down in this recess, and I think the lip of the speaker probably comes to the edge here anyway, so we're not going to be too bad on that. But this definitely needs to be pulled all the way in to this part here, which will be quite challenging, but luckily it's only on this bottom edge here. As we get closer to the top, there's less to pull in, so I'll strategically cut out here and have more leather on this side to be able to pull into there and hope it goes alright. Don't want to have to do this twice, so I will add, I'll probably add a good inch to the top here. And yes, I am using a marker pen, which is absolutely fine on the reverse side of the leather. If I was cutting out on the good side of the leather, the face, I obviously couldn't use a marker pen. I'd have to use something that is removable. A lot of people do cut out on the good side. That's completely up to them, and you have to start removing whatever you put on there to mark on. It's just, in my opinion, it's the wrong way to do it. You should always cut everything on the reverse side of the fabric. Now remove this pattern, flip it over and do the other side. So that's the main piece. I need to cut out the two sides. So I'll get the two sides from somewhere in here, and I should be able to get the two internal parts from these bits here. I've now sewn everything together, so it's all in one piece. I have tried it on and it fits alright. What I need to do next is to do all the top stitching. I'm going to do this slightly different to how it was done before. On these end seams here, it had a double top stitching, so one on either side of the seam. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do one row, so a lapped seam effectively. So I'll do the top stitching now. I'm not going to film it. I'll come back to you when I've done the top stitching, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to fit it onto the dash. I'm going to fit it on inside out, so the good side will be facing the foam on the dash, and then I'm going to apply glue while it's on. It's the easiest way to do something like this. It's just to fit it onto what you're covering. We'll fit it inside out, and then you can apply glue and you can get a good coverage on everything. And then it's a way of testing the fit as well, to make sure everything is hunky-dory. Oh, I'm also going to use slightly thinner thread. I'm not going to use the same thickness of thread that was on the original. I think it's just a little bit too much. It's too obvious. It's nice to have top stitching in a contrasting colour, but sometimes you have a thick thread and it's, in my opinion, it doesn't look fantastic. I think it's sometimes just a little bit too much being a thicker thread. So I'm going to use a thinner thread, and I think it'll just look a little bit cleaner and just a little bit nicer, in my opinion. If you think differently, then leave a comment and tell me why, and yeah, I'll tell you why you're wrong. Got to leave that now for half an hour-ish. Everything to this point has been, I wouldn't say easy, but relatively straightforward. Getting something like this on and getting it on in the correct position is a little bit of patience, manipulation and skill. That's been about half an hour now. It's still got a little bit of tackiness to it, but only a small amount. I'm going to move this out of the way, put it somewhere where it's not going to get full of dust. I don't want dust inside. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this end into position, and then I'm going to go to the other end, get that into position, and then work my way around all the seams. The most important bit are the seams, nothing else, so I need to get all them completely in line, and then I can work my way around and just do some manipulation and make sure we're all okay. So this is going to be a lot of fiddling. It's going to take probably a good while just to get get everything into position. I'm going to film it the best I can, but if my head's in the way, sorry, but I need to try and see what I'm doing. So all these wrinkles here, I don't need to worry about these because this, you can see where the edge is here, this is where the speaker goes. So all this is going to disappear. I want a little bit more leather here. I would have preferred a little bit more here, but I think I've probably got enough here just to pull it in. Right, so that's roughly where I want it to be. I'm just going to apply a little bit of steam to this part here and this part here on the side. Right, so we're going to now move to the other end. Do exactly the same. Get the other end in position, and then I'll whip my way around. Whew. Well, that was a bit of a pain getting that seam straight. That's now finished. It just needs to be wiped down with white spirits just to get rid of any glue residue that may be on it. Once I've done that and it's dried off, I will show you some befores and afters and you can see the difference. So if you enjoyed that video, give it the old thumbs up. I hope you subscribed. Thanks for watching. Bye.